Have you ever woken up from a vivid dream, a world so real, so intricate, only to find yourself back in your bed, grappling with the disorienting feeling that for a moment, that dream world was your reality? And as you shake off the lingering images, a chilling thought might just briefly cross your mind. What if this world, the one you're in right now, is just another layer of that dream? It's a question that echoes through the ages, a whisper in the back of our collective consciousness. But let's make it even more specific, more unsettling. Have you ever truly felt like you're nothing more than a character in a grand, unfolding story, a narrative you didn't write, a script you can't fully control? You play your part, you strive, you love, you lose, you yearn, yet there's this persistent, nagging sense that the outcomes, the patterns, even your deepest desires are somehow predetermined, etched into a cosmic tapestry far beyond your influence. Perhaps you've experienced those moments where you repeat cycles you swore you'd break, where your best efforts seem to lead back to familiar frustrations, leaving you with an eerie feeling of déjà vu, as if you're trapped on a carousel of fate. You make choices, yes, but do they genuinely alter the fundamental direction of your life? Or are they merely variations within a tightly constructed plot line? This isn't just about feeling overwhelmed by circumstance. It's about a profound, existential suspicion that your autonomy might be an elaborate illusion. Now, imagine if that unsettling feeling, that persistent intuition, wasn't just a fleeting thought or a poetic metaphor, but a profound, verifiable truth about the very nature of existence. What if our entire reality, every single thing you perceive, every person you encounter, every emotion you feel, the solid ground beneath your feet, the vastness of the sky above, what if it's all, at its most fundamental level, not an objective, external world existing independently of you, but rather a colossal, intricate projection? A projection of your own mind, an astonishing, mind-bending concept that transforms the universe into an internal landscape, where the boundaries between perception and reality dissolve entirely. This isn't just about subjective experience, where everyone sees things differently. This is about the unsettling idea that the entire fabric of what we call the external world is woven from the threads of our consciousness. It's a reality construct, an immersive simulation, not one built by silicon and code, but by something far more primordial and intimate. If this were true, then waking life, with all its vividness and apparent solidity, would bear a striking resemblance to the most convincing of dreams. The difference isn't in their fundamental nature, but perhaps only in their duration and the degree of shared consensus we attach to them. Think about it: the colors, the sounds, the textures, the very concept of space and time. Are they inherent properties of an external world, or are they the sophisticated rendering engine of your own consciousness, constantly generating the world moment by moment? This radical, almost frightening perspective was not born in some modern philosophical debate or cutting-edge neuroscience lab. No, this profound challenge to our common-sense understanding of reality emerged from the brilliant, yet often pessimistic, mind of a philosopher living almost 2 centuries ago, Arthur Schopenhauer. He looked at the human condition, at the ceaseless striving, the inevitable suffering, the unquenchable thirst for more, and dared to offer an explanation so profound, so counterintuitive, yet so disturbingly resonant, that it challenged every prevailing notion of happiness and meaning. Schopenhauer didn't just observe that life is full of struggle, he proposed a shockingly fundamental reason why it must be so. He painted a picture of existence not as a journey towards enlightenment or blissful union, but as a relentless, often futile, pushing against an invisible, all-encompassing force that shapes every aspect of our experience. He offered a radical, almost terrifying, explanation for why contentment is so fleeting, why every desire satisfied simply gives birth to a dozen new ones, and why true, lasting peace seems to perpetually elude us just beyond our grasp. He saw the world not as a benign playground for human potential, but as a stage for an eternal cosmic drama of will and representation, where we are both the actors and perhaps the unwitting puppets. And what does this mind-bending idea, this 19th century revelation, mean for us here and now in our modern scramble for meaning and peace? If our reality is indeed a mental construction, a projection, then what does that imply about our ability to influence it, to change our circumstances, or more importantly, to change our internal state? If struggle is woven into the very fabric of existence, as Schopenhauer suggests, is there any escape, any genuine path to liberation from the relentless cycle of desire and dissatisfaction? We are about to embark on an intellectual journey that promises to unearth Schopenhauer's shocking answer, an answer that, once grasped, has the potential to fundamentally transform your understanding of yourself, your world, and what it truly means to find genuine, lasting peace in a seemingly chaotic and demanding existence. Join us as we dive into the world as will and idea and prepare to question everything you thought you knew about reality. This isn't just a history lesson in philosophy, it's an urgent invitation to peer behind the curtain of perception and discover the profound, almost unsettling truth about your own being. Let's begin. Welcome, fellow seekers, to a journey that might just reshape how you view the world and yourself. Today, we're diving headfirst into the profound, often challenging, but ultimately liberating philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer, specifically through his towering achievement, The World as Will and Idea, Volume 1. Prepare to encounter a mind that, while perhaps unsettling at first glance, offers a rare kind of intellectual honesty. You might already know Schopenhauer by reputation, often branded as the pessimist, a philosopher infamous for his seemingly bleak outlook on existence. Caricatures abound of a perpetually gloomy figure, perpetually lamenting the futility of it all. But I'm here to tell you that this label, while not entirely inaccurate in its superficiality, drastically misses the profound depth and ultimately the practical wisdom embedded within his work. Schopenhauer was not merely a purveyor of despair, he was a fearless diagnostician of the human condition, a thinker of incredible precision and insight, and I believe a hidden fount of robust guidance for navigating the intricate challenges of modern life. He doesn't aim to depress you, rather, he seeks to fully equip you with an unparalleled understanding of reality, an understanding that paradoxically leads to greater inner freedom and contentment. My own introduction to the world as will and idea wasn't an academic one, nor was it a casual exploration. It was born out of a deeply personal period of profound disillusionment. Like countless others in our fast-paced, aspiration-driven world, I felt a persistent, gnawing sense of dissatisfaction, a constant striving for happiness that always seemed just beyond my grasp, perpetually contingent on the next achievement, the next acquisition, the next fleeting positive emotion. Society incessantly promised fulfillment through endless consumption, relentless self-optimization, and a mantra of positive thinking that often felt hollow. Yet, beneath this veneer of perpetual progress, the underlying current of anxiety, suffering, and existential unease persisted, often intensifying. I stumbled upon Schopenhauer's masterpiece, almost by accident, expecting little more than a confirmation of my own gloom, perhaps even a sophisticated philosophical justification for it. What I found instead was nothing short of a revelation, not a descent into despair, but a radical, exhilarating ascent to clarity. Schopenhauer didn't sugarcoat reality, nor did he offer platitudes. Instead, he dissected existence with a surgeon's unflinching precision, meticulously exposing the very roots of our suffering. And crucially, he did this not to wallow in those roots, but to understand them deeply. In that profound understanding, paradoxically, he offered a path, not to an impossible, saccharine bliss, but to a far more resilient and authentic sense of inner peace and freedom. He illuminated for me how the relentless cycle of craving and aversion, the constant push and pull of desires that define so much of our waking lives, are not personal failings or unique misfortunes. Instead, they are fundamental, inescapable aspects of existence itself, wired into the very fabric of the universe as we experience it. And in recognizing this universal truth, the immense, debilitating pressure to fix myself, to be perpetually happy and optimized at all times, began to dissolve. It was like realizing you've been tirelessly swimming against a powerful, unyielding current your entire life, only to learn that this current is simply there, an inherent force of nature, and that the true path to navigating it lies not in trying to halt its flow, but in understanding its immense power and learning to move with, or even above, its relentless pull. This wasn't a depressing realization, it was a deeply liberating one. It empowered me to step back from the frantic, often meaningless race, to observe the world and my place within it with a newly calibrated lens, and to truly appreciate moments of genuine tranquility and stillness amidst the ceaseless chaos of everyday life. So, my core mission with this video, and indeed with this entire series, is not to convert you to a pessimistic worldview, but rather to invite you on an intellectual adventure to look beyond the superficial caricature of Schopenhauer. It's to humanize these incredibly dense, often intimidating philosophical concepts and reveal their raw, transformative, and profoundly practical relevance for navigating the bewildering complexities of 21st century life. We'll explore precisely how his penetrating insights into the nature of desire, the universality of suffering, the redemptive power of art, the foundational principles of morality, and the very essence of reality itself, can equip each of us with a richer, more nuanced understanding of our own innermost experiences. These insights can foster greater empathy for others, cultivate a more resilient, thoughtful approach to problem solving, and ultimately lead to a more profound, deliberate way of living. Our journey together will unfold in several crucial, interconnected stages. First, we will unflinchingly confront the problem Schopenhauer's foundational argument about the true nature of existence, the relentless, blind cosmic will that drives everything, and why suffering is not merely an unfortunate byproduct, but an inescapable, inherent part of the human condition. We will rigorously explore his revolutionary concept of the world as both will and idea, delving into what that profoundly means for our perception of reality and our place within it. But rest assured, we will not stop merely at the diagnosis, however accurate it may be. From there, we'll journey into the powerful avenues he proposed for both temporary solace and, remarkably, even lasting relief from the tyranny of the will. We'll delve deep into the profound, transcendent solace offered by aesthetic contemplation through art and music, the ethical implications of boundless compassion, and ultimately, the challenging but deeply rewarding path he termed asceticism, understanding it not in its narrow, often misunderstood religious sense, but as a profound philosophical discipline for achieving genuine inner peace and liberation. Consider this video and this entire series your indispensable map to understanding not just a philosophical giant who has shaped centuries of thought, but perhaps more importantly, a deeper, more authentic understanding of your own inner landscape. Let's embark on this extraordinary intellectual journey together, ready to challenge deeply held assumptions, expand our perspectives, and uncover the surprising, transformative wisdom hidden within the pages of Arthur Schopenhauer's monumental work. Welcome to our journey into the profound and often challenging philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer. We begin with the very first chapter of his monumental work, The World as Will and Idea, a chapter he titles simply and arrestingly The World in Your Head. This isn't just a clever turn of phrase, it's the bedrock upon which his entire system is built, and it's arguably the most radical and liberating idea you'll encounter in his work. Schopenhauer opens his book with a statement that is as simple as it is revolutionary: the world is my idea. Read that again, let it sink in. The world is my idea. What does he mean by this? He's not suggesting that you, personally, conjured up Mount Everest or the Milky Way galaxy. He's making a much more fundamental claim about the nature of our experience of the world. To grasp this, let's use a modern analogy. Imagine you put on a cutting-edge virtual reality headset. Inside that headset, you might find yourself soaring through a fantastical landscape, or battling mythical creatures, or simply exploring a digital recreation of a real city. While you're immersed, the world within the headset feels utterly real. You interact with it, react to it, your senses are engaged. But intellectually, that the world you're experiencing is not an objective reality out there. It's a complex, sophisticated representation, a set of data points, algorithms, and sensory inputs generated by a machine, all existing solely within the confines of your own perception. The world in the headset is, quite literally, your idea, or more accurately, an idea presented to you. Think also of a dream. While dreaming, your mind constructs an entire universe. People, places, events, they all seem undeniably real. You experience emotions, sensations, even a sense of time passing. But upon waking, you realize it was all a mental construct, an elaborate play staged solely within the theater of your own consciousness. Schopenhauer argues that our waking reality is, in essence, no different. The world we see, hear, touch, taste, and smell is not direct access to an objective reality. Instead, it is a grand, elaborate representation, an intricate mental construct created by our minds for our minds. The universe is not out there independent of a perceiver. Rather, its very being as world depends on a perceiving consciousness. This brings us to the crucial relationship between the subject and the object. The subject is you, the irreducible, singular I that observes, perceives, and knows. It is the eye that sees, the ear that hears, the mind that thinks. The subject is never itself an object of perception. It is pure knowing. It is always presupposed in every experience, yet it can never be grasped or known directly, because to grasp it would be to make it an object, which by definition it is not. Conversely, The object is everything that is perceived, known, or thought. It's the tree outside your window, the sound of my voice, the memory of your breakfast, the very body you inhabit. For Schopenhauer, an object cannot exist without a subject to perceive it, and equally, a subject cannot exist without objects to perceive. They are two sides of the same coin, inextricably linked. As he puts it, no object without a subject. The very essence of an object is to be an object for a subject. Its being is being perceived. This concept leads us directly to the ancient Indian philosophical idea that Schopenhauer so readily embraced, the veil of Maya. In Hindu traditions, Maya is the cosmic illusion, the magical power that makes us see the multiple, differentiated world as real, rather than the underlying, unified divine truth. Schopenhauer adopted this metaphor to describe the nature of our perceived reality. The veil of Maya is the illusion that the world we experience, this world of separate objects, of space, time, and causality, is objective reality itself. It is the shimmering, deceptive curtain that separates us from what truly lies beyond our representations. This veil creates the illusion that we, as individual subjects, are separate from the world we see. We look out and see a vast, external reality, full of distinct things and other distinct people. We assume that the color red is an inherent property of a rose, that the hardness of a table exists independently of our touch, that the sound of music is a vibration out there that simply travels to our ears. But according to Schopenhauer, the red, the hardness, the sound, these are all manifestations within our consciousness, constructed by our cognitive faculties. They are not the things in themselves. The veil of Maya, then, is the grand illusion that blinds us to the fact that what we call the world is fundamentally a construction, a phenomenal appearance, a world of idea. Our everyday assumption, the default setting of human consciousness, is what philosophers call naive realism. We simply assume we perceive the world as it is. We trust our senses implicitly. When you look at your hand, you believe you are seeing your actual hand directly, objectively. When you hear a bird sing, you assume the sound is an absolute, external event. Schopenhauer vehemently challenges this everyday assumption. He argues that we are not seeing the world as it is at all. We are seeing our idea of the world, filtered, shaped, and constructed by the very structure of our minds. The categories of space, time, and causality, which we intuitively apply to everything, are not properties of a world independent of consciousness, but rather the very forms through which consciousness organizes its perceptions. This is a radical shift in perspective. It means stepping back from the immediate sensory reality and recognizing it as a phenomenon, a representation. It doesn't deny the existence of something beyond our ideas, but it asserts that whatever that something is, it is not directly accessible to us through our senses or intellect. It is precisely this something beyond the idea that Schopenhauer will explore as the will in the subsequent chapters. But for now, the crucial takeaway is this: every sun, every planet, every animal, every human being, every perception, every concept, it all exists solely as an idea for a subject. The world, as we experience it, is entirely the world in your head. And understanding this is the first, vital step in comprehending Schopenhauer's profound and unsettling philosophy. In our previous discussion, we explored the world as idea, the realm of phenomena, everything we perceive, experience, and categorize through the lens of our intellect. But Schopenhauer doesn't stop there. He peers beyond the curtain of appearances, seeking the inner essence, the fundamental reality that drives and animates everything. And what he finds is not a benevolent creator, not a rational intelligence, but a blind, irrational, ceaseless force he calls the will. This will is profoundly different from what we commonly understand as our personal will, the conscious choices we make, the intentions we form. Schopenhauer's will is a much grander, more terrifying concept. It is not an individual's conscious intention, but a cosmic, metaphysical energy, a fundamental impulse underlying all existence. Think of it as a raw, insatiable craving, an eternal, relentless striving, an unquenchable thirst for life and manifestation, without purpose or end. It is the thing in itself that can't spoke of, but imbued with a terrifying, primal dynamism. It is the unceasing will to live that manifests in every aspect of the universe, from the gravitational pull of planets to the stubborn growth of a weed through concrete, from the instinctual drive of an animal to our own most complex desires. This universal will, in its essence, is fundamentally irrational, without intellect or aim beyond its own perpetual self-assertion. It simply wills, it strives, it pushes, it demands. And we as individual beings are not separate from this will, rather, we are its most complex and self-aware manifestations. Within each of us, this cosmic energy pulses, driving our desires, shaping our existence, and dictating our experience of reality. Our bodies, our instincts, our passions all are direct objectifications of this fundamental will. Even our intellect, which we so highly prize, is ultimately just a tool, developed by the will to better achieve its own ends in the complex world. The most profound way this will manifests in our daily lives, and indeed in the lives of all conscious beings, is through an incessant current of desire, dissatisfaction, and craving. Consider your own experience. How often do you truly feel utterly content without wanting anything more? The moments are fleeting, aren't they? We chase after success, believing that the next promotion, the larger house, the perfect relationship will finally bring lasting happiness. Yet, when we achieve these things, the initial euphoria quickly fades, replaced by a new set of desires, a fresh sense of lack, an emerging boredom. The satisfaction we hoped for is always just out of reach, perpetually deferred. This constant, unceasing pull is precisely the will at work within us. It's the hunger that never ends. We see it everywhere in modern society, manifesting in countless forms. Take, for instance, the addictive nature of social media feeds. Why do we endlessly scroll, refreshing our screens for new content, new likes, new notifications? It's not a conscious, rational choice born of deep contemplation. It's the will manifesting as an insatiable craving for novelty, validation, and connection, a constant striving to fill a void that can never truly be filled by external stimuli. The algorithms are masters at exploiting this fundamental aspect of our being, creating an endless feedback loop of desire and fleeting gratification. Or consider the relentless engine of consumerism. We are constantly bombarded with messages telling us that happiness can be bought, that self-worth is tied to possessions. We acquire the latest gadget, the newest fashion, the most cutting-edge experience, convinced that this time it will be different. But the excitement is ephemeral. The new car soon becomes just a car. The trendy outfit quickly feels outdated. This isn't because the items themselves are inherently flawed, but because the underlying will that drove the desire is never truly satisfied by any object. It merely shifts its focus, pointing us towards the next thing, the next promised land of contentment that always lies just beyond our current grasp. This perpetual chase is the very embodiment of the will's endless striving, a profound dissatisfaction that propels us from one desire to the next, leaving us constantly wanting more. This relentless cycle leads Schopenhauer to a rather bleak, yet undeniably insightful, metaphor for human existence, life as a pendulum swinging between the pain of wanting and the boredom of having. When we are caught in the grip of desire, yearning for something we lack, we experience suffering. This is the pain of wanting. It could be the agony of unrequited love, the stress of financial hardship, the hunger for recognition, or even the simple discomfort of thirst. We strive, we struggle, we exert ourselves to overcome this pain, to fulfill the desire. If we succeed, there's a brief, momentary flicker of contentment. But this state of fulfillment is inherently unstable. The will, being ceaseless, cannot remain dormant. It quickly grows restless, and the absence of pain, the lack of immediate striving, transforms into boredom, the boredom of having. This ennui, this existential emptiness, quickly becomes a new form of suffering, driving the will to seek out new desires, new challenges, new objects to pursue. And so, the pendulum swings back from the agony of unfulfilled desire to the quiet suffering of boredom, only to be propelled again by a fresh craving. This isn't a minor observation, it is, for Schopenhauer, the fundamental condition of all conscious life. Happiness, in the conventional sense of sustained contentment, is an illusion. We are forever caught on this pendulum, driven by a primal, irrational force that cares not for our individual peace, but only for its own perpetual self-expression and striving. To truly understand Schopenhauer, we must grasp this radical redefinition of reality, that beneath the surface of our rational thought and carefully constructed lives, there lies a roaring, indifferent furnace of will, an endless hunger that defines our very existence. And it is this profound, often unsettling realization that sets the stage for the rest of his philosophy. Welcome back. So far, we've explored Schopenhauer's revolutionary idea of the will as this blind, striving fundamental force underlying all existence. We've painted a picture of a world where everything, from the smallest atom to the grandest galaxy, is a manifestation of this insatiable drive. But Schopenhauer doesn't leave us as mere detached observers, gazing at this cosmic striving from afar. He invites us to look inward, to our most immediate and undeniable experience, and there, he argues, we will find the will in its purest, most direct form, within our own bodies. This brings us to Chapter 3. The body knows best, your direct access to the will. This is where Schopenhauer makes his most profound and personally impactful claim. While we perceive everything outside of us, the majestic mountain, the bustling city, even another human being as an idea, a representation filtered through our senses and intellect, our relationship with our own physical form is entirely different. We don't merely observe our body, we are it. We don't just see a hand, we feel the impulse to clench it, to reach out, to gesture. We don't just note a stomach rumbling, we experience the gnawing emptiness of hunger. This crucial distinction is the bedrock of Schopenhauer's argument. Our own body is not merely an idea among other ideas, it is the will directly apprehended, felt from the inside. It is the only phenomenon in the entire universe that we experience simultaneously as idea and as will. The movements, the sensations, the very life force animating us, these are the will speaking directly, without the filter of objective perception. Think for a moment about the fundamental bodily urges that govern so much of our existence. Hunger, thirst, desire, fatigue. Are these rational decisions? Are they products of your careful intellectual consideration? Absolutely not. They erupt from a deeper, more primal place. Hunger, for instance, isn't a thought. It's a visceral demand, an insistent craving for sustenance that, left unaddressed, can override all other concerns. It's the will's direct command for self-preservation. Thirst is an even more immediate and powerful manifestation, a desperate biological imperative. Sexual desire, too, is a profound and often overwhelming force, a testament to the will's drive for propagation, for the continuation of its own striving. And fatigue. It's the body's non-negotiable insistence on rest, shutting down even the most determined intellect if its demands are ignored. These aren't suggestions, they are direct expressions of the will's fundamental demands, its relentless assertion of its own existence through our individual bodies. They demonstrate a drive that transcends mere reason, a powerful internal current that moves us often against our conscious preference. Now, this is where things get truly fascinating. Schopenhauer posits that our intellect, that prized faculty of reason, logic, and planning, which we often believe is the master of our actions, is more often than not merely a servant to the will. Our intellect, in this view, is a sophisticated tool, a cunning strategist designed to find ways to satisfy the will's raw, irrational impulses. We don't decide to be hungry. We are hungry, that's the will. Our intellect then springs into action, devising plans to acquire food, justifying an indulgent meal, or even constructing elaborate philosophies around diet. We don't rationally choose to be attracted to someone. That initial spark, that magnetic pull, is the will's mandate for procreation. Our intellect then busily creates narratives. Oh, they're so intelligent, we have so much in common. This feels right. These justifications, while appearing rational, are often elaborate post hoc constructions designed to serve the deeper, non-rational agenda of the will. Our minds become eloquent advocates for our deepest, most primal urges, weaving intricate tapestries of reason to cloak the underlying blind striving. The intellect, in essence, is the will's resourceful engineer, building bridges and finding pathways for its ceaseless journey. To truly grasp this, I invite you to take a moment. If you're able to, perhaps close your eyes or simply let your gaze soften. Now bring your awareness inward, away from the sounds and sights around you. Feel your heartbeat. Don't try to control it, just notice its steady, rhythmic pulse within your chest. Thump, 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 thump. Is that your conscious decision? Do you command it to beat? No, it simply does. That relentless, automatic rhythm, sustaining your life moment by moment without your conscious input, is the will in action. Now, feel your breath. Notice the subtle, continuous cycle of air entering and leaving your body. The gentle rise and fall of your chest or abdomen. Again, you can consciously alter it, but even when you're not thinking about it, your body continues to breathe ceaselessly, keeping you alive. That quiet, persistent affirmation of life, that fundamental striving to exist, is the will manifesting directly within you. It's the unceasing energy that powers your very existence, a prime example of the will's tireless, aimless striving. This immediate, undeniable internal experience of our own body as will is Schopenhauer's most profound insight and our most direct pathway to understanding his philosophy. It means the will isn't some abstract, distant force. It is the very essence of you. It is the engine of your desires, the source of your anxieties, the driving force behind every impulse and every action, even those you proudly attribute to your free will. Our body, therefore, is not merely a vessel for our consciousness. It is the physical manifestation of the will, providing us with a uniquely intimate and undeniable experience of this fundamental, striving reality. Once you recognize this, your relationship with your own body, your desires, and your understanding of human motivation will never be quite the same. Having journeyed through the bleak landscape of the will's endless striving, the relentless cycle of desire and suffering that defines our existence, you might be forgiven for wondering if Schopenhauer offers any solace at all. Is there no respite from this ceaseless yearning, this fundamental disquiet that permeates every aspect of life? Fortunately, he does. Schopenhauer, for all his profound pessimism, outlines several paths to temporary freedom, momentary sanctuaries where we can escape the iron grip of the will. The first, and perhaps most accessible, of these great escapes is through aesthetic contemplation, through the profound experience of art and beauty. Imagine a moment, perhaps one you've experienced yourself, when you become utterly lost, completely transported beyond your ordinary self. Perhaps you're standing before a painting in a hushed gallery, its vibrant colors and intricate forms drawing you in so completely that you forget your surroundings, what time it is, or your prior tasks. The world outside the frame, with all its personal demands and anxieties, simply ceases to exist. Or maybe you're listening to a piece of music, a soaring symphony, a melancholic jazz melody, a powerful opera aria, and it engulfs you entirely, carrying you effortlessly beyond your immediate worries, beyond your very sense of identity. It's not just pleasant, it's a profound, almost spiritual transformation. Or consider the breathtaking majesty of a vast mountain range, a sunset ablaze with impossible, fleeting colors, or the intricate, delicate perfection of a single dew-kissed flower. For a precious, timeless instant, you are simply there, observing, absorbing. Your individual will momentarily suspended. What happens in these extraordinary moments, according to Schopenhauer, is a temporary miracle, a fleeting glimpse of liberation. Our usual mode of engagement with the world is fundamentally driven by the will. We perceive objects not for what they are in themselves, but almost exclusively for what they mean to us, for their utility, for how they might serve our desires or alleviate our suffering. We're constantly asking, what can I gain from this? How does this affect my life? What is its purpose in relation to my goals? But in true aesthetic contemplation, this utilitarian, instrumental way of seeing utterly vanishes. We stop wanting something from the object. We cease to relate it to our individual will, our personal history, or our future desires. Instead, we simply contemplate it, absorbed in its pure objective form, in its eternal essence, its Platonic idea, without any thought of mine or me. In these sublime moments, our individual will temporarily fall silent, its incessant clamor hushed. We cease to be the particular struggling, desiring individual, driven by endless wants and fears. We become, in Schopenhauer's resonant words, a pure, will-less subject of knowledge. Our consciousness is momentarily freed from the tenacious shackles of our own specific desires, anxieties, and subjective interests, transforming into a crystal-clear mirror reflecting the objective reality, the eternal ideas that the beautiful object embodies. It's a moment of profound detachment, of selfless objectivity, and pure, untainted apprehension. Among all the arts, Schopenhauer considered music to be the highest and most profoundly significant, unique in its immense power and its direct, unmediated connection to the will itself. While other arts, painting, sculpture, poetry, Architecture represent the ideas or specific objectifications of the will, like courage embodied in a hero, or the striving of a particular animal species captured in sculpture. Music is fundamentally different. Music, he argued, is not merely a copy of the ideas, it is a direct copy of the will itself. It speaks not of specific phenomena or their conceptual representations, but of the inner essence, the raw, fundamental striving, the very dynamic force that underlies and animates all phenomena in the universe. Think of it this way: music expresses the entire, tumultuous range of human emotions: joy, sorrow, longing, triumph, despair, hope, resignation, without ever needing to depict their specific causes or the concrete objects that evoke them. It doesn't show us why someone is sad or what they are longing for. It presents the pure sadness, the pure longing in its unadulterated abstract form. It embodies the rhythm, the tension, the resolution, the ceaseless flow and striving of the will itself, the very pulsation and ebb and flow of existence. It is the will made audible, the non-conceptual language of the soul laid bare, directly touching our innermost being. Because music bypasses the ideas and goes straight to the will, it holds a unique and unparalleled power to stir us to our very core, offering the most direct and profound glimpse into the fundamental, blind, irrational nature of reality. It's an abstract, yet utterly potent, reflection of the will's boundless dynamism, its yearning, its perpetual motion and ceaseless conflict. It is crucial, therefore, to distinguish this profound aesthetic experience from mere entertainment or passive amusement. Schopenhauer was certainly not advocating for simply putting on some background music while doing chores or idly gazing at a pretty picture. True aesthetic contemplation demands an active, selfless absorption, a conscious and sustained effort to transcend our subjective interests and personal preoccupations. It's not about seeking transient pleasure for ourselves in the conventional, ego-driven sense. It's about the temporary liberation from ourselves, from the insistent, often painful demands of our individual will. It's about achieving a state of detached, objective awareness, where for a fleeting but potent time, we are no longer slaves to our desires, but pure observers of the world's essential forms and its underlying driving force. This escape, though temporary and ephemeral, offers a glimpse of something truly beyond the constant thrum of suffering, a moment of profound peace and enlightening insight. But, like all good things in this will-driven world, it cannot last indefinitely. The will, ever present, eventually reasserts its dominion, dragging us back into the fray of individual striving and its attendant pains. Yet, these artistic revelations provide not just solace, but a vital clue to the deeper paths of redemption we will soon explore. We've explored how understanding the world as will and idea offers a profound shift in perspective, revealing the root of our suffering. Now, let's turn to the ethical dimension of Schopenhauer's philosophy, a path to liberation forged not through denial, but through a radical expansion of our very sense of self. This is The Great Escape, Part 2, Compassion and Connection. Our journey into Schopenhauer's thought has consistently challenged conventional wisdom. Perhaps no concept is more deeply ingrained in our experience than the idea of our individual self, distinct and separate from all others. We perceive ourselves as unique entities, encased within our bodies, with our own thoughts, feelings, and desires. This deeply felt individuality, however, Schopenhauer argues, is nothing more than an illusion, a trick of perception. It is precisely the principium individuationis, the principle of individuation, that creates this seeming separation. This principle is not some mystical force, but rather the very forms of our apprehension space and time. It is through space that we perceive objects as being distinct from one another, occupying different locations. It is through time that we perceive events as succeeding one another, creating a linear narrative of individual existence. These are the lenses through which we view the world of phenomena, the world of representation, and they are what fragment the underlying unity into a myriad of seemingly independent beings. But what lies beneath this veil of individuated appearances? If we peel back the layers of space and time, what do we find? At the ultimate metaphysical level, at the level of the will itself, there is no separation. There are no is and us in the fundamental sense. Instead, we are all manifestations, expressions, and instantiations of one single, striving, suffering entity, the universal will. Just as a single ocean can manifest as countless waves, each seemingly distinct, yet all fundamentally water, so too does the one will manifest as every living being, every plant, every animal, every human. Every desire, every ache, every pursuit of satisfaction, every instance of pain experienced by any creature is ultimately the same fundamental will experiencing itself in myriad forms. The striving of a bird for food, the yearning of a lover, the pain of a wounded animal, the anxiety of a human are all expressions of this singular, insatiable will. We are at our core not separate players in the cosmic drama, but rather different roles played by the same fundamental actor. This profound insight into our metaphysical unity lays the groundwork for Schopenhauer's most crucial ethical concept, Mitleid, often translated as compassion, but more accurately conveying a sense of company suffering. It is vital to understand that Mitleid is far more than mere pity. Pity, while often well-intentioned, can still maintain a subtle distance, a feeling of I am here, you are there, and I feel sorry for you. It can, at times, even carry a hint of condescension, reinforcing the illusion of separation. True Mitleid, however, transcends this. It is not an intellectual understanding, but an immediate, intuitive recognition that another being's suffering is, in essence, your own suffering. It is the spontaneous collapse of the ego boundary, the realization that the suffering will manifesting in the other is the very same will that manifests in you. When you witness the pain of another, whether human or animal, and truly feel Mitleid, you are not just sympathizing, you are experiencing, on a deeper level, the shared suffering of the one universal will. You are seeing through the illusion of separation and recognizing yourself in the other. It's a moment of profound identification where the you and I dissolve into a deeper we. The ethical implications of this recognition are monumental and form the bedrock of Schopenhauer's moral philosophy. If, at the deepest level of reality, we are all expressions of the same will, then harming another being is not just an act against an external entity, it is, on a metaphysical plane, an act of self-harm. To cause pain to another is for the will to inflict pain upon itself through one of its manifestations upon another. When you strike another, when you deceive, exploit, or cause suffering, you are in essence striking, deceiving, exploiting, and causing suffering to the very substance of your own being. This is not about divine retribution or social consequence. It is an inherent metaphysical truth. Morality for Schopenhauer does not stem from external commands, social contracts, or the promise of reward. Instead, it arises naturally from this profound, intuitive insight of Mitleid. It is the realization that the suffering you cause ripples back to the fundamental unity of existence, which includes yourself. The absence of mitleid and the presence of egoistic striving lead to cruelty, conflict, and deepened suffering, not just for the victim, but ultimately for the perpetrator who remains trapped within the delusion of their separate self-serving will. Conversely, cultivating mitleid, living with the constant awareness of this fundamental oneness, leads to kindness, justice, and a diminishment of ego-driven desires. It encourages us to alleviate suffering wherever we find it, because in doing so, we are alleviating the suffering of the universal will, and thus our own. This path of compassion, therefore, is not merely a virtue, it is a profound step towards liberation, a genuine escape from the illusion of individuality and the endless, self-inflicted torment it perpetuates. It is the realization that true freedom begins when the boundaries of the self expand to encompass all of existence, transforming suffering from a personal burden into a universal call for connection. We've journeyed through the labyrinth of existence as Schopenhauer saw it, a world driven by an insatiable, blind will, a relentless striving that brings only temporary satisfaction and inevitable suffering. We've witnessed how art and aesthetic contemplation offer a fleeting respite, a moment of transcendence from the will's tyranny. But Schopenhauer's philosophy does not stop there. He proposes an ultimate, most radical path to liberation, a profound and difficult freedom, the complete denial of the will to live. This is chapter 6, the final freedom, saying no to the will. Let's be absolutely clear from the outset, when Schopenhauer speaks of denying the will to live, he is not advocating for suicide. This is a crucial distinction. Suicide, for Schopenhauer, is in fact a final, desperate, and ultimately futile affirmation of the will. The individual who takes their own life is not rejecting the will itself, rather, they are rejecting the conditions of their specific life. They want to live, but they are so deeply dissatisfied with the particular circumstances of their existence, its suffering, its frustrations, that they choose to annihilate that existence. It is an act of anger and despair against life, not a transcendence of the will that drives life. It's a colossal failure to endure, a symptom of the will's relentless grip, not a release from it. The true denial of the will to live is something far more profound, far more courageous, and entirely internal. It is a conscious, peaceful, and voluntary quieting of all desires, all attachments, all striving that emanates from the fundamental will. It is a deliberate turning away from the world and its incessant demands, not out of bitterness or resignation, but out of a deep understanding of its inherent suffering and futility. Imagine it not as an act of destruction, but as an act of profound, radical non-participation. This path, often labeled asceticism, is not about deprivation for deprivation's sake, nor is it about self-punishment. Instead, it is a radical act of liberation from the very impulse to desire, to possess, to perpetuate. It involves recognizing the illusory nature of individuality and the endless cycle of suffering that accompanies attachment to the phenomenal world. This means embracing chastity, not as a moral decree, but as a means to halt the will's most fundamental impulse, reproduction. It means voluntary poverty, giving up the pursuit of possessions and social status, understanding them as mere bait set by the will to keep us entangled. It means fasting, self-control, and withdrawing from the superficial pleasures that only momentarily distract us from our innate suffering. These are not ends in themselves, but tools to quiet the inner clamor of the will. Here, Schopenhauer's philosophy finds striking resonance with ancient contemplative traditions, particularly Buddhism. The Buddhist concept of nirvana, the cessation of suffering through the extinguishing of desire and attachment, mirrors Schopenhauer's denial of the will. Both paths emphasize the impermanence of existence, the suffering inherent in desire, and the wisdom of detachment. Similarly, the spiritual practices of monastic orders, the yogic traditions, and the contemplative saints of various faiths who choose a life of renunciation and inner focus over worldly engagement embody aspects of this radical turning away from the will's dictates. They seek an inner peace that transcends the turmoil of the external world, not by battling it, but by detaching from it. And what, then, is this end state? If we succeed in quieting the will within us, what remains? Schopenhauer is clear: it is not a terrifying void, not an annihilation into nothingness to be feared. Instead, he describes it as a profound peace beyond suffering and striving, a state of perfect tranquility. It is a liberation from the endless cycle of willing, from the gnawing pain of unfulfilled desires, from the fear of death, and from the illusion of separate individuality. It is a state where the subject of knowledge, pure and will-less, no longer perceives the world as a manifestation of a terrifying, striving will, but as something else entirely, a cessation of all phenomena, a blissful emptiness where the very distinctions of self and world dissolve. It is a profound quietude, an ultimate serenity that lies beyond all conceptual understanding, a true freedom that is not merely the absence of pain, but a positive, transcendent peace. It is Schopenhauer's version of nirvana, a final, sublime escape from the treadmill of existence. This radical denial of the will is Schopenhauer's ultimate, most difficult challenge, a path open only to the few who can truly comprehend the nature of suffering and the futility of worldly striving. It demands an almost superhuman strength of character and an unwavering philosophical insight. Yet, for those who embark upon it, it promises the final freedom, a release into a state of profound peace where the relentless grip of the will is finally, truly broken. All right, we've explored the depths of Schopenhauer's thought, unraveling the intricate tapestry of the will and its manifestations. But philosophy isn't just for dusty bookshelves, it's a lens through which we can perceive and interact with our world. So, how do we take these profound ideas and integrate them into our bustling, modern lives? How do we feel the will rather than just intellectualize it? That's precisely what our 7-day Schopenhauer action plan is designed to do. This isn't about becoming a pessimistic recluse. It's about gaining a deeper understanding of your inner workings and the forces that drive humanity. Think of it as a week-long philosophical experiment where you are both the scientist and the subject. Grab a pen and paper or open a note on your phone, because we're about to embark on a journey of self-discovery guided by the insights of Königsberg's most famously melancholic philosopher. Let's kick things off with days 1 and 2, focusing on directly observing the will. For these 2 days, your primary task is to keep what I call a desire journal. This is a simple but incredibly potent exercise. From the moment you wake up, pay close attention to every single craving, every urge, every pull you feel. It could be as trivial as the desire for a second cup of coffee, the urge to check your social media feed, the sudden craving for a particular snack, or the impulse to buy that item you just saw online. The key here is not to judge these desires, nor to necessarily act on them. Your sole mission is to simply note them, write them down, What did you desire? When did it arise? How strong was the pull? Don't analyze, just observe and record. This practice will illuminate just how ceaseless and pervasive the will's activity is within your own mind. You'll begin to see the invisible strings that tug at your consciousness, guiding your actions and attention, often without your conscious consent. It's an eye-opening start to understanding Schopenhauer's foundational concept, not as an abstract theory, but as a living, breathing force within you. Moving into days 3 and 4, we'll turn our attention to Schopenhauer's concept of aesthetic contemplation, that temporary escape from the will's tyranny. For 20 minutes on each of these days, I want you to dedicate yourself entirely to one of two activities. Either listen to a piece of instrumental music or stare at a work of art. The crucial part here is no distractions. Turn off your phone, close your tabs, find a quiet space. If you choose music, let it be something purely instrumental, a classical symphony, an ambient track, anything without lyrics that might pull you back into conceptual thought. If you choose art, it could be a painting, a sculpture, even a striking photograph. Your goal is not to interpret, not to analyze, not to think about the artist's intention or historical context. Your goal is simply to observe. Let the forms, the colors, the sounds wash over you. Allow yourself to be fully absorbed in the idea of the piece, temporarily freeing yourself from the clamor of personal desires and the demands of the will. Notice that profound sense of calm, that momentary transcendence of individuality that arises when you are purely contemplating something for its own sake. This is a direct experience of Schopenhauer's will-less perception, a fleeting glimpse of liberation. On days 5 and 6, we shift our focus to an antidote to the will's inherent egoism, compassion. Schopenhauer believed that true morality springs from recognizing the suffering of others as our own, seeing through the veil of individuation to the shared, underlying will. For these 2 days, your task is to perform one small, anonymous act of kindness. This isn't about grand gestures or seeking recognition. It's about a quiet, selfless act. Perhaps you pay for the coffee of the person behind you in line, leave a positive note for a struggling colleague, or help someone carry a heavy item without being asked. The anonymity is key. It ensures your motive isn't self-aggrandizement. As you perform this act, consciously focus on the feeling of alleviating someone else's struggle, even if it's just a tiny burden. Feel the dissolution of the boundary between yourself and the other. This isn't just about being nice. It's about experiencing the fundamental interconnectedness of all beings and the shared suffering that underpins existence. It's a direct, empathetic confrontation with the will's universal striving and the profound insight that comes from seeing yourself in another's pain. Finally, we arrive at day 7, the ultimate challenge, a conscious, albeit minor, act of denying the will. Throughout the week, you've observed its pervasive nature and sought temporary escapes. Now, for one full day, choose to abstain from one minor, habitual pleasure. This shouldn't be something that causes serious distress or impacts your health, but rather a small indulgence you typically enjoy without much thought. For example, if you always put sugar in your coffee, drink it black. If you habitually check social media every hour, try to go a whole day without it. If you always have a particular snack after dinner, skip it. The specific pleasure isn't as important as the act of conscious denial. As you attempt this, pay incredibly close attention to the will's rebellion. Notice the cravings, the mental arguments, the irritation, the subtle discomfort, the powerful urge to give in. Observe how the will, accustomed to having its way, protests and tries to reassert its dominance. This exercise offers a profound, first-hand experience of the will's relentless striving and your capacity, however challenging, to exert a degree of conscious, rational control over its immediate dictates. It's a small victory, but a significant step in understanding the path to liberation Schopenhauer outlined. And there you have it, your 7-day Schopenhauer action plan. This isn't a magic bullet that will instantly free you from suffering, but it is a powerful set of tools to begin directly experiencing and understanding the core tenets of Schopenhauer's philosophy. By observing the will, escaping into aesthetic contemplation, practicing compassion, and consciously denying minor urges, you'll gain an experiential insight far deeper than any purely intellectual understanding. I encourage you not just to do this for a week, but to weave these practices into your life whenever you feel the need to reconnect with these profound ideas. Embrace the journey and see how your perception of the world and your place within it begins to transform. All right, we've navigated the sometimes turbulent waters of Schopenhauer's thought, exploring the profound depths of his monumental work, The World as Will and Idea. Before we conclude, let's bring these complex ideas into sharp, memorable focus with Schopenhauer in 60 seconds, your 3-point summary designed to reinforce learning and ensure these core takeaways truly stick with you. First, and perhaps the most impactful and relatable of Schopenhauer's insights, life feels like a relentless struggle because for him, it absolutely is. We are not just passive participants in this ceaseless striving. We are, in our very essence, manifestations of a blind, irrational, and eternally unfulfilled metaphysical force he termed the will. This isn't a conscious, calculating entity, but a primal, boundless energy that underlies all existence, from the fundamental forces of nature to every impulse, desire, and drive within ourselves. Consider the constant cycle of human experience. We desire something, we strive to achieve it, and if successful, that satisfaction is fleeting, quickly giving way to either boredom or the emergence of a new desire. This perpetual dissatisfaction, this never-ending quest for something more, for something different, is the direct consequence of being a part of this insatiable will. It's a cosmic treadmill where even attaining our most cherished goals merely offers a temporary pause, a momentary illusion of peace, before the inherent restlessness of the will reasserts itself, pushing us toward new striving, new suffering, new lack. Our very existence, according to Schopenhauer, is an expression of this painful, endless wanting. Secondly, Schopenhauer presents a radical challenge to our everyday perception, the deeply ingrained idea that you are a separate, distinct individual, utterly isolated from others, is in fact a profound illusion. This principium individuationis, or the principle of individuation, is merely the conceptual framework, the veil of Maya, through which our intellect structures the world. It creates the appearance of multiplicity and separateness, when in ultimate reality, we are all part of the same underlying, blind, suffering will. When you witness the pain of another being, whether human or animal, and feel an instinctive surge of compassion or empathy, that's not just a noble sentiment, it's a momentary glimpse behind this veil, a direct, intuitive recognition that their suffering is fundamentally shared, an expression of the very same primal will that constitutes your own being. True ethics, therefore, isn't about adhering to external rules or rational principles of conduct. Instead, it arises from this profound, intuitive realization of our interconnectedness, an understanding that we are all expressions of a single, shared, suffering whole. This universal sympathy, this ability to identify with the suffering of another as if it were your own, is the highest ethical impulse because it momentarily transcends the egoistic boundaries of the individual and offers a pathway to diminishing the total sum of the will's suffering in the world. Finally, if our lives are inherently bound by the struggle of an insatiable will, where can we possibly find any semblance of lasting peace or genuine liberation? Schopenhauer emphatically argues it is not to be found by chasing after and acquiring what you want, because the very nature of the will ensures that any such satisfaction is transient, inevitably leading back to desire and suffering. Instead, true, profound peace emerges from an active and conscious process of wanting less, of denying and quieting the ceaseless, insistent demands of the will within us. This isn't a passive resignation to fate, but a radical, active reorientation of our entire perspective. Schopenhauer identifies two primary avenues through which we can achieve these precious, though often fleeting, moments of liberation. The first is aesthetic contemplation, when we immerse ourselves fully in the pure appreciation of art, such as a sublime piece of music, a breathtaking landscape, or a masterful painting. We temporarily transcend our individual desires and perceive the eternal Platonic ideas behind the phenomena. In these rare moments, we become a pure, will-less subject of knowing, freed from the chains of personal longing and necessity. The grip of the will loosens, and we experience a profound, serene tranquility. The second path is deep compassion by fully identifying with the suffering of others, by extending our empathy to such a degree that their pain effectively becomes our own. We momentarily overcome the illusion of separate individuality. Through selfless acts and a profound sense of shared humanity, we actively counteract the egoistic impulses of the will, paving a path toward a more universal quietude and a genuine, albeit arduous, liberation from its relentless, suffering cycle. This isn't happiness in the conventional sense, but a cessation of pain, a profound serenity found in the denial of the will to live. As our rigorous journey through Arthur Schopenhauer's The World as Will and Idea, Volume 1, draws to its contemplative close, remember that true philosophical inquiry isn't merely to absorb, but to engage, to wrestle, and ultimately to contribute to the ongoing, millennia-spanning dialogue. This comments section is designed as a vibrant amphitheater for your reflections, a crucible where diverse perspectives on profound ideas can converge and illuminate one another. It's here that the enduring power of Schopenhauer's insights truly manifests, transforming what might otherwise be a solitary reading experience into a shared intellectual adventure. So, with that in mind, I extend a heartfelt invitation to you: step forward, join the chorus of curious minds, and enrich our collective understanding. I genuinely want to hear from you. After navigating the challenging yet profoundly rewarding corridors of Schopenhauer's thought, perhaps spending time pondering his radical assertions, which of Schopenhauer's many powerful and sometimes unsettling ideas resonated with you most profoundly, or perhaps most controversially? Was it his audacious claim that a blind, irrational will underpins all existence, and indeed, our very being? Did his somber yet strikingly precise analysis of suffering and his proposals for its momentary alleviation through aesthetic contemplation or ascetic denial strike a particular chord with your own lived experience or observations of the human condition? Or did a less obvious, more subtle facet of his comprehensive philosophical system, perhaps his unique take on objective idealism, or his compelling arguments for the unity of all phenomena truly seize your imagination and compel a rethinking of your own metaphysical assumptions? Don't shy away from sharing the nuances of your connection, your moments of intellectual revelation, or even your respectful disagreements. Your personal engagement transforms abstract ideas into living thought. And let us delve into a classic Schopenhauerian conundrum, a debate that has echoed through the hallowed halls of philosophy for nearly 2 centuries, and one that remains intensely relevant today. Is Arthur Schopenhauer best understood as a profound pessimist whose philosophy offers a bleak, almost despairing view of human existence? Or is he, rather, an unflinching realist, merely stripping away comforting illusions to reveal an uncomfortable, yet ultimately truthful picture of reality? Did his relentless dissection of desire and the inherent suffering it brings leave you with a sense of existential weariness, or did you perceive in his rigorous, almost scientific approach a vital, unvarnished truth that, while difficult, ultimately empowers a more honest navigation of life's complexities? This isn't a simple binary choice. There are compelling arguments for both interpretations, and indeed, for positions that blend or transcend these labels. I encourage you to articulate not just your chosen stance, but the intellectual journey that led you there. What specific arguments or insights from the world as will and idea inform your conclusion? Your thoughtful contributions are invaluable in painting a more comprehensive and nuanced portrait of this extraordinary, often misunderstood thinker. If this deep dive into Schopenhauer has sparked new intellectual pathways for you, if it's offered a novel framework for interpreting your own experiences, or if it has simply provided a captivating journey into the mind of a philosophical giant, then please consider expressing your appreciation by giving this video a like. Each like is a small but significant signal that this kind of rigorous, thoughtful content is valued, and to ensure you never miss out on our continued explorations on future philosophical deep dives that are meticulously crafted to connect these timeless, often challenging, ideas directly to the profound questions and practical realities of real life in the 21st century. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel and activate that notification bell. Your active support and sustained engagement are the very lifeblood that allows us to continue producing these in-depth analyses, fostering this unique community of dedicated seekers and critical thinkers. Furthermore, the wisdom embedded in texts like Schopenhauer's is not meant to be hoarded but shared. If, during our discussion, a particular friend, family member, colleague, or even someone you know online sprang to mind, perhaps someone who actively grapples with existential questions, someone who has expressed a fascination with the nature of will and desire, or someone who would simply appreciate this challenging, yet ultimately enriching perspective on existence, then please take a moment to share this video with them. Philosophy thrives not in isolation, but through its propagation, through the dynamic interplay of ideas across diverse minds. Sharing can ignite new conversations beyond this platform, cultivate intellectual companionship, and perhaps even introduce someone to a philosophical current that profoundly resonates with their own inner world. Finally, for those whose appetites for deeper understanding have been whetted, for those now eager to immerse themselves further in Schopenhauer's original, untranslated prose, or to explore the vast secondary literature that has grown around his monumental work, I've meticulously curated a selection of resources for you. You'll find direct links in the description below, guiding you to reputable editions of the world as will and idea itself, along with recommendations for insightful commentaries, scholarly analyses, and even related philosophical texts that engage with or respond to Schopenhauer's groundbreaking ideas. Our exploration here, comprehensive though it may be, is merely a meticulously prepared invitation. The boundless library of knowledge and the profound journey of self-directed study truly awaits your continued, enthusiastic investigation. Thank you sincerely for your time, your attention, and most importantly, for your engagement in this vital intellectual endeavor. Your thoughtful participation is not just appreciated, it is the very essence that breathes life into these discussions. I eagerly anticipate reading your insights in the comments and continuing this grand philosophical conversation with each of you.